Donald Trump's former lawyer says that the president's directed him to buy the silence of two women who claimed to have had affairs with him in the run-up to the 2016 election. Mr. Trump denies directing Michael Cohen to break the law. Mr. Cohen was sentenced to 3 years in prison last week for campaign finance violations and lying to Congress. Talking to ABC News' George Stephanopoulos, Mr. Cohen said he gave loyalty to someone who truthfully does not deserve loyalty. Here's a flavour of what he said.
The man doesn't tell the truth. And it's sad that I should take responsibility for his dirty deeds.
Well, joining me now is Trump supporter and former White House advisor Oliver McGee. Appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us, Oliver. I mean, this is a stinging rebuke to President Trump, but how damaging is it for him?
Well, very little damage, because the DOJ 1973 policy says that a sitting president can't be indicted, and non-disclosure agreements are not in the language of the constitutional impeachment clause. So really, that stands for high crimes and misdemeanors, and having private contracts and communications with others is not an indictable offense and is not rising to the level of impeachment here. I think what we're seeing is a dressing down in the court of public opinion, but Mueller is having trouble raising this entire probe into the court of public law because he's restrained by DOJ policy.
As you say, it's not indictable, but at the same time, is it not the perception? The perception is that here is a man sitting in the White House who is disingenuous, to say the least.
Well, I think all presidents sometimes in the art of the presidency can be disingenuous and also secretive, because they have to, because they're a national security instrument. I think what we're doing is looking at how the court of public opinion is trying to set the case for the House impeachment process, which is going to be a big mistake for the House if they do that, because it's not going to get through the Senate. But more importantly, we're going back to 1973 policy and thinking in Washington that is in the Nixon age. And so for the Democrats to be so progressive, they're going back to generations that the new millennials, which represent 36% of the voting bloc, don't even understand Watergate. They weren't even born. So I think that's just a bad move for the House to be moving in this direction.
What will President Trump's people be saying to him in order to put the flames out?
Well, I think what the supporters right now are really looking at is we put President Trump in a legitimate election to build a wall, to lower taxes, to give us more jobs, to raise the economy to where there's wealth spread around and rising tides lift all boats, to look at America first and rethink national security and international security, and more importantly, to put a president that's going to do promises made, promises kept. I think that's really where the voters stand, and Donald Trump holds about 40% of the voting bloc. He needs about 7 to 10% to win a second term. And I think that's what this is all about, to try to stop that momentum. I think that's what the voters are saying to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is saying to his voters.
But his legitimacy is now being questioned because of the fact that this allegation from Mr. Cohen that, he gave these two women hush money.
It is noise in the wind. We don't want to talk about hush money. I've turned off my television set, and most of Donald Trump's supporters have as well. We're not interested in that. We're basically saying this was a legitimate election, and the House Democrats are trying to say it was an illegitimate election. They are wrong. This was a legitimate election. And we can't get into the business that if we don't like who's elected, then all of a sudden we need to go to the impeachment process and the impeachment clause to overturn elections. We'll never have sound elections anymore. This will be a bad mistake if we go down this historical road, which is wrong for this time.
How likely is it that we will go down this historical road?
Very unlikely. I think what Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer in the White House Oval Office was really sort of implying we're trying to find a way to work with Trump, and Trump is trying to find a way to work with them. They both know that they both lose by burning up Washington into an impeachment and something that was historical. If we keep our eyes forward into the future, I think both sides could win. And that's really what the voters were saying when they voted a Democratic House. They said, we're going to have some bipartisanship, we're going to have some checks and balances, and we're going to get things done. If this House doesn't get anything done, they will vote vote Trump in for 2020, and they will lose their House.
Oliver McGee, Trump's supporter. Good to talk to you. Thank you very much.